Hey everyone, and welcome back. So it's time to look at the new Nintendo Switch games coming out for this week. Now I've got to say, it's a week with no big, massive releases in my opinion, but nonetheless, there are some indie games this week that are looking really interesting. So let's jump in and take a look at those. Just remember, if you are liking the video, hit that like button. So just as usual, we'll be going in chronological order, starting with today, April 29th, pretty much when the video is coming out. We have Ogu and the Secret Forest. That is a game that will be selling for $24.99. Now, I know the term Zelda-like feels overused, but yes, this game does evoke a lot of feelings of the Zelda series. It's a top-down action-adventure puzzle game, and it even has a graphical style that reminded me somewhat of Hollow Knight. So let's jump in. This is actually one of the games that has me most interested for this week, and in a few seconds you'll see why. Let's take a look at the trailer. Hand-drawn art style is right on point with this cutesy little penguin, but you'll see in a few seconds the bosses, the environments really kick in. They look just as beautiful, and there's no way you don't look at this and you don't feel Hollow Knight inspiration. Like, come on. I love these, like, sort of even mixed with a mech type, like mechs in the society. Yeah, this game is definitely top on my list for this week. And look, even like sometimes that looked like an RPG battle system at times. Got some fishing. Yeah, Ogu and the Secret Forest, definitely a game at high on my list for this week. I think a lot of you out there maybe didn't even know this game was coming out. I'm so glad I fell on the trailer because it looks like it might be promising something really fun. And there's a good chance we're going to be trying this game on Wednesday. So if you do want to tune into the channel during the stream, we most likely will be playing this game. Next, let's jump into our next game, which is Bosorka. Now, this game is also coming out on April 29th, but it has a much more budget price point of $5.99. Now, it's an action roguelike. We have a lot of those, but this one looks graphically interesting enough that I'm willing to try it, especially at this incredibly budget price point. Maybe it'll become somewhat redundant, but as you're going to see from the gameplay, there seems to be enough original elements here that this one is going to be worth picking up in a world of roguelikes coming out like crazy every week. This one it looks like it has something a little special. Let's take a look at the trailer and you'll see what it has to offer. Like I said, for a budget game, the graphics you're going to see don't feel like super budgety. And the action looks pretty hectic, but a good hectic, controlled hectic. Boss fights look really nice. Trailer, however, is a bit short. So there we have it. That is the trailer for Bosorka. But you know what? At $6.99, for what I've seen here, I've seen games more expensive than this that don't look as fun as this to pick up. Obviously, we'll have to wait and try it out to see if it really is worth it, but I think this game could have some really high potential for very low investment. So if you're looking for a game to take a chance on for this week, or if you want to wait for a review, I'd keep an eye out for this one. It looks like one that could be pretty promising. So now that we have April 29th out of the way, we are going to move to a release that is coming out on April 30th. Now, I'll be honest, this game isn't necessarily a recommendation of mine, but I do want to cover it because it's a big gaming franchise. It's coming out, and that is MotoGP 25. As I said, April 30th. However, it'll be selling for $49.99. Now, the reason why I'm saying that I'm not necessarily recommending it is that on the Switch, MotoGP hasn't really been great due to technical limitations. And I really don't see MotoGP, especially with the trailer here, where I'm guarantee you none of this footage is coming from the Switch. I really don't see this game making any headway to be better on the Switch 1. In reality, I think that this is a series that could maybe get some legs on the Switch 2, but nonetheless, this was probably in the works for quite a while, so MotoGP 25 is still releasing on the current Switch. If you are into the series, please wait for a review and wait for some actual footage from the Switch, because there's actually no dedicated Switch trailer anywhere on YouTube for the moment. So we really have no idea what it's going to look like on the Switch. And as you'll see in a few seconds, this gameplay is really generic. It's probably pulled from the PS5, Xbox, whatnot. So let's take a look at MotoGP 25. I wanted to highlight it nonetheless because there might be MotoGP fans out there, and I did want to at least acknowledge it's releasing this week on the 30th.
Peggy 3.
Train always as the maximum level that I can. Speed, fights, and passion. Always believe in myself, don't give up.
By the way, if any of these trailers get muted, it'll be due to copyright reasons. And the trailers will be linked in the description down below if ever the audio has to be muted or something like that. And you can always check it out later.
Your dream, take your risk, make some mistakes. MotoGP is passion and big.
So yeah, like I said, this gameplay doesn't feel like it's coming at all from the Switch. It doesn't, probably not going to look like this. It's too bad, though, because motorcycle racing is something that can be really enjoyable. We just haven't had a really, really good one, I feel, on the Switch for quite a while, other than some retro arcade-style motorcycle racers. So yeah, we have MotoGP coming out, and like I said, especially at the $50 price point, before dropping your cash, definitely wait to see if the game turns out to be something worth picking up or not. Okay, now shifting over. Once again, we have another game coming out on April 30th. This one has an interesting style, but I'm sort of on the fence. I did want to highlight it nonetheless because I think there's some interesting concepts here, and that is Witching Stone that will be releasing on April 30th. This game will be selling for $13.99. Now, once again, we have a puzzle game, but it basically mixes a couple of different puzzle genres with RPG mechanics. Graphically, I'm going to say I'm maybe not super impressed here with the pixel art work. It feels like they could have gone a little better in the pixel art work, but the gameplay design nonetheless has me interested enough where maybe on sale I would pick this one up. At $13.99, I would definitely wait to see if reviews say that the game is good, but this would be a game I'd be willing to try out in the future on sale once it hits like close to that 50% mark. But let's take a look at the trailer nonetheless and see if the gameplay can sort of looks like something you might be interested in. So there's basically like match three puzzles mixed with, like I said, RPG mechanics, and even there seems to be action cards. Like, I have a feeling that the gameplay here has a ton of potential. I feel like the gameplay could actually be offering something quite unique in the puzzle/RPG genre. I'm just not sure about the graphical presentation of the game to see if it's really gonna get you invested there. But nonetheless, Witching Stone coming out on April 30th. I thought it was a game that was nonetheless pretty worthy of at least mentioning for this week. Now, getting to May 1st, our next game is actually one that has me extremely interested. At first, I thought I would be zero interested in this game, but then when I watched the trailer, I was like, okay, it could work. the game is CATO Buttered Cat that is releasing on May 1st, and it'll be selling for $11.99. Now, once again, we have I'm going to call this a puzzle platformer where you're controlling a cat and a piece of buttered toast. Yes, you heard me right. A piece of buttered toast as you're trying to escape from an area, basically. And you'll have to combine the abilities of the cat with the abilities of the buttered toast to escape the area. And I'll say Playism generally does some pretty decent games, which is why also I gave this a chance. And you know what? We'll look at the gameplay, but it actually looks extremely interesting. This is probably another one of the top games for me for this week, just because the design is so funky that it might actually work. So yes, as you saw, a cat and a piece of buttered toast. So as you can see, each one, the piece of toast and the cat have different abilities, but when they combine, they also have a third set of abilities. And like I said, the design just looks so funky that it actually might work, and it's made by a company that actually knows what they're doing generally with platformers. I'm saying made, but I mean published. Sorry, I'm just gonna fix the explanation there. And the graphical style works for it. I find, like, you see this, contrary to the last game, the pixel art style works for this game. Has me extremely interested, and the fact that it's $11.99 feels like a good price for this type of game. Obviously, you know, maybe some people will say good when it's on sale, but at $11.99, I think if this game has a decent amount of levels, a decent amount of challenge, and puts all these mechanics together properly, it can nonetheless be an extremely interesting game to pick up for this week. So if you're into the puzzle platformer genre, I would say this is probably one of the top recommendations for this week. But we aren't done with that genre yet, because there's another game that looks extremely interesting, also releasing on May 1st. And that is Stasis Valley, that will be selling for $9.99. Now, my notes on this one says that when I watched the trailer, it gave me Limbo vibes. And recalling it right now, I do agree. That is what it really seems to be, mixing that sort of minimalist design with a sort of unsettling atmosphere, but bringing it all together into a really interesting and fun package. I think this one, words can't properly describe. If you've played Limbo, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, let's watch the trailer and you might get the gist of what I'm trying to point to. Obviously, graphically, it's a little more detailed than Limbo, but nonetheless, it has those same type of, like, it has that same type of vibe. Or you're stuck somewhere and you're not exactly sure what you're trying to do, but you sort of have to platform around and survive the environment. Once again, the pixel art here works for the game. And here is really where, like I said, the Limbo vibes start to kick in hard. Like, it was all ready before, but like that last little peak from that maybe monster, maybe not monster, is really where it kicks in. So Stasis Valley, like I said, if you're into puzzle platformers, definitely I would keep a huge eye out for this one. On top of it, for $9.99, once again, that budget price point that really, really can convince some people to take a chance on it. So awesome looking game. Once again, another one that I would recommend checking out for this week. Now, We have one game left for May 1st before we move to our last game on May 2nd, and that game is going to be Jack Barau, which you'll see is a play on Jack Sparrow. Now, this is once again another platforming game with some puzzles integrated and whatnot, but this one is trying to focus really on a comical style because, like I said, it's playing off of a sort of Pirates of the Caribbean vibes, but in a very comical and cartoony fashion. So let's take a look. You're playing a seagull pirate. The game looks interesting. Maybe not top of the list for me for this week, but I do still see a ton of potential here.
Ahoy, matey! It's me, Jack Barau, the famous petrel pirate captain. What? You don't believe me? Look, here's my pirate hat and my pirate boat, the Green Pearl. Here's even my
I've got to say the artwork is pretty nice. It catches the eye.
Have you ever seen baby petrels? Oh, they're so cuddly and fluffy and fuzzy and, well, they're going extinct, you see.
Don't worry, we'll get into some gameplay. Here we go.
My yellow lights at night, and it makes them fall down to their doom. With all of these fiendish buccaneers wiggling the lanterns all around the pier, our little ones are all but safe, and it is our duty to help them. In Jack Barau, the game, you will have to help me find my way through tricky levels and activate all sorts of switches and
So this seems like a mix of puzzle slash, you know, precision platforming.
From the evil yellow lights. To the rescue! Time to jack up your game in Jack Barau, the game!
And by the way, I think I forgot the price point on this one. This one is at $12.99. So once again, a fair price for this type of game if it delivers a long enough, full enough experience. And I like the comical take on the gameplay. Some of these scenes do like help have you crack a little smile. Hopefully it keeps up during the game with little cutscenes to sort of lighten the mood here and there. But the gameplay also looks pretty solid. It seems like almost a take on Flappy Bird, but done as a platformer. So honestly, pretty interested in this one, but it doesn't top my list for this week. Now we have one last game to look at for this week, and this one will be on May 2nd, and it is going to be selling for $19.99. However, there's a pretty decent pre-order discount of 20% off, dropping it to $15.99. So if ever you are really interested in this game and you're gonna be picking up day one, it is worth investing in the pre-order at 20% off. Spellcaster University is a management game, ultimately, where you're building a, let's just say it, Harry Potter-inspired magical school. Obviously, this is not licensed. It is not associated to that license in any way, but you'll see by the presentation, by the trailer, they are definitely pointing to that inspiration. So you basically have to run your own magical school, guide your students, and basically complete different tasks through the gameplay. If you're interested in management games, I would say this one actually looks pretty well-rounded. So till we actually get to Switch 2 with 2 Point Museum, I think this one is going to be a pretty decent one in the genre if you're looking for something new to pick up. So let's jump in and take a look at the trailer.
Peggy 7.
Once again, just a quick reminder, if ever any of these trailers get muted, copyright reasons, because I have a feeling this song might be, you can always check out the audio to the trailers in the links down below. Like I said, the graphical style is pretty interesting. It seems very decent for the Switch and high grade enough where it keeps you, pulled into the gameplay. And there seems to be quite a bit of customization as well. So honestly, as a fan myself of management games, I've got to say, this one has me interested, and it takes a lot because I say I'm a fan of management games, but they have to be well done. I'm not just gonna play a management game because they put the word sim in front of it. Like, it has to be something that is well rounded, well thought out, and offers a new experience that I haven't had before. This one actually could be something I'm interested in. I will try to get a review code for this one. However, if I do pick one up, I might play it on stream either Friday, or if not, I'll be trying to do a review shortly after. So that was pretty much it for the new Switch games for this week. Like I said, a little bit quieter on the Switch front currently. Let's not sugarcoat it. Developers are gearing up for Switch 2 releases. Games that are coming out now were probably already in the pipeline for a little while, and they were sort of just working towards their release date. But nonetheless, I think some pretty quality indie titles here for this week. Let me know what you thought in the comments down below. What games are you going to be picking up? Did I miss out on any good games coming out this week that I should have included in the list? Let me know in the comments down below. On the way out, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you aren't already, and click on the notification bell. And as usual, I'll see all of you in my next video.